but his actions, I believe, have been overlooked for many years. So I'm happy with the resolve.
Carrie, that is so good. And I'm so glad that you said that because if you think about, I know that there was a time where every time you turn around, you would see these postings. This girl is missing. That girl is missing. Like, even with my daughters, I'm very protective over them on like where you go. You have to be careful, right? I just remember a time where it was just really at a heightened state. So it wasn't a lot of attention being paid to black and brown girls. It didn't get as much coverage. It didn't get as much attention when these types of acts happen, these sexual acts, this trafficking. So I agree with you. It's a very good point. I'm glad some justice has been served, but we definitely got to do better when it comes to this.
We do.
Yes, so that's our hot topic for today. So, Carrie, let's get into your journey. I always tell my guests there's usually a story behind the glory. So you're doing amazing things, you're shining, but there's always that story. So what challenge did you have to overcome and how were you able to face it?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I was adopted at the age of 6 weeks old, and so
matched up with some amazing parents. Tell us about being the caregiver to now your parent. At one time, it was your parents. Tell us about that.
Yes, it's been a 4.5 year journey of being a caregiver. I was single, empty nester. My son was out of the house. He went to Iraq. He served our country well, came back home, and I knew I was going to have to help my parents at some point in life. And I actually got a call. Things weren't right, and so I had to bring my parents from Washington State to California to live with myself. My mother was a full assist. She was in a wheelchair with the use of one hand and was in a heightened dementia state that we had never experienced before. So it was a lot. I had a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house, a very older home, small rooms, small bathrooms. So my son moved in to help me with grandma and papa. So everyone's lives changed. And the care for my mother almost killed me. So all I can say is during that time, I really just was hanging on by a thread. And when I look back at pictures and whatnot, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can barely recognize myself because I was wearing the stress and anguish. But unfortunately, my mom passed away 3 months after moving here. She knew she was very ill, but she didn't share it with the family, which many families do. But then a week later, my father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So he just turned 88 in April. And so he lives with me. I'm his primary caregiver. And we try to laugh a lot, but it's a lot. Um, with the pandemic, it was a challenge to work from home, caregive from home. I didn't want to have any support come inside the house because of the pandemic, but recently we've found some great caregivers that can help me out part-time as I need to leave the house and whatnot for work. But it's a lot, and so my whole mission now is to share with people to start having these conversations before you're in the crisis mode, because there's lots of resources out there for people to help us in this stage of life. But when you're in the midst of the storm, you don't have time to reach out and figure out those resources. You're just trying to live minute by minute. So I'm an encourager to have conversations with our loved ones, our family, older family members, and create a plan so that when that time does come, you know how to take action and what your loved one really wants.
Carrie, wow. This is so much to unpack. First of all, I commend you because it takes a lot of patience to be a caregiver. I was just talking to someone about this, about we were talking about her mother, and she was telling me about how much patience it takes. So, Carrie, let's talk about the fact that when your mom, taking care of your mom, and how you said it almost killed you. What was that? Like, was it the fact that it was just you didn't have enough support? Was it, and then you had to work on top of that?
Mm-hmm.
So what did that look like? Was it at that stage of like, I'm just holding on barely?
Right. So I moved them here, to live with me, and you're trying to find doctors, you're trying to verify medication, you're trying to find out what is going on, and how to keep them happy and healthy. And I was lifting, because she was a full assist, lifting, transferring, bathing, wiping, dressing. All she could do was feed herself. And so it was a lot of work. I had bruises up and down my legs because trying to shimmy around the wheelchair to get her in and out of the bathroom. There's a time I threw my back out and lifting her from the bed, and all I could do was just go down, and I was her pillow. So she just fell on top of me. So my son was great in helping during that time when he moved in to help me because my mom had what's called sundowning, and so it means when the sun goes down, different behaviors are heightened. So she would be laying down like she's asleep, but she'd be yelling out, just stop pouring milk on me, help me. You would think that she was being attacked sometimes, but I had to separate my parents in different rooms, and so just all of life changed for both myself and my son, to give the quality of care. My mom and I had a different relationship, but I'm thankful and grateful that during that stage of life, kind of some of the sharpened edges were rounded out, and so it was easier to care for her. However, it was hard to watch your loved one, be in this fragile state, and have to also work full time, try to have a life of yourself. Since that time, I developed stomach GI issues, and it's from the stress. I lost weight. I wasn't sleeping. I looked like I just, was hanging on by a thread, and I was. And the mental toll, because you wonder, are you doing the right thing? There's guilt. Can I do more? Should I be doing more? So just every emotion you can imagine, we were going through. But again, I just tell people that are caregivers in that space to give grace to yourself, and that's all you can do. Give grace to yourself.
Wow. Oh my gosh. We had to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, Carrie, I know that you told the viewers, those that are caregivers, to come up with a plan to give yourself grace. But when we come back, we're going to hear if there's any other things practical that you can do when you're in this situation, because we don't have these conversations enough. We don't talk about what, especially if your parents are vital, and they're moving around, they're living everyday life, but life can change in an instant. And
Yes.
we have to start having these conversations. So when we come back from the commercial break, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to get into all of the amazing things that Carrie is doing in her law and insurance solutions. So meet us back. You don't want to miss this on the Glow Up. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we have been talking to Carrie Sanford, and her story is powerful and it is amazing. Like, I always know that successful people, you see the professional side of them, but typically there is an amazing, powerful story behind all of what you see in the shine. And Carrie is definitely one of those people. So, Carrie, tell us some tools, some practices, some things that if you are a caregiver, those that are viewing, what you can do, or before it even gets to that point, what can you be doing for your parents or your family?
Absolutely. Everyone needs to have one, a power of attorney. It's your legal financial papers. So, power of attorney, so if you become incapacitated and you can have someone, a family member, a friend, act in your behalf to make decisions for you. So, definitely a power of attorney. Your will and certain a will, if you pass on, who gets what are your wishes, because if you don't, then you leave it for your family to figure it out, and oftentimes there can be disagreements. So the greatest act of love is to have your legal papers in place so that your family does not have to think about what are your wishes, what do you want to have done. So give my recommendation there. And then if you are in a situation where you have aging parents, um, have those conversations, when you're at the family dinner, at the holiday dinner, or in between if you're just hanging out with your family. If something were to happen to you, mom or dad, or both of you, who would you want to help you, like with doctor's appointments, or who would you want to help you manage your personal finances? Who would you want to take care of you, meaning the physical care if needed? Who would you want to live with? um, do you want to be, cremated or buried? So
Mm.
therefore, you can follow what your loved one's wishes are, and if there is more than one child, you're not having to figure that out between different siblings, right? We can hear and remember things differently. So remember that game telephone?
Yeah.
So having that information written out so everyone's on the same page, and also that helps because it's an emotional time, right? So you don't want to be having to make these decisions during an emotional time.
Mm, that is so good. Good, good, good stuff. I'm telling you. And don't let, don't, if I can just add to that, don't back down from the conversation, because sometimes you can have stubborn parents
Yes.
and they will be set in their ways of, I'm not going to need that. I'm going to be able to get around to the day I pass from here. So don't
Yes.
stay down. Have these conversations until you get the answers. So very good advice. So Carrie, tell us about Lowland Insurance Solutions, the services you provide. Tell us how that was inspired and all of that good stuff.
Well, I've been in the insurance industry for over 20 years. Group health insurance, voluntary benefits. But when I started the journey with my parents, even before they moved with me, with Medicare health insurance, I was helping them and I found it to be complicated, confusing. You speak to one person, you speak to another, you get a different answer. And so I thought to myself, how do older adults navigate this process without an insurance background? So that's when I changed and pivoted my agency rebranded it, and named it Lala Insurance Solutions, which is named after my parents, Lawrence and Lena. So the company is really birthed out of love and a personal story. Once I did that, I started speaking to people and hearing their story as they transition to Medicare health insurance. That's our main focus. Medicare health insurance is for people typically that are 65 and older. Sometimes people under 65 are able to enroll because they're on a permanent disability. But Medicare health insurance is my major focus at our agency, along with individual life insurance. I do want to share when it comes to life insurance, especially for our community, we don't talk about this as much as we should. And I'm tired of seeing the GoFundMe's. Here in California, where I'm located, there's car washes, there's bake sales, and I want to stop that. So my mother, and I'm in insurance, right? My mother had a $10,000 life insurance policy. That's it. That's nothing. My
Yeah.
father, who's 88, guess what? He has nothing. So I feel awful that this is my line of work and I didn't have those conversations with my own family. So I just want to share that you need to look into some type of life insurance because it's not just for the beneficiary, but it's for, final expenses, right? Things cost. And, the average going home, doesn't matter how you're buried or cremated, is around $10,000 to $12,000. So just want to say that we need to prepare and have those conversations.
Ooh, that is so true. I'm right there with you. The GoFundMe's, and then your stuff if people don't give to it. So we have to budget for this because I know sometimes you're thinking, well, I'm barely able to pay what I need to pay, so I can't pay for life insurance. But you rather budget for that now opposed to when you get into these situations having to worry about this inflated expense and having to come up with it. And I agree with you, Carrie. I love the inspiration behind the name of
Thank
Lawless.
you.
But when I saw that, I was like, okay, so this is like a law. She's into the law.
Right.
But that's brilliant. Like it is your parents' name, Lawrence and Lena. That's,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I love that. I love how you did that. How do you juggle everything? So, to the entrepreneurs that are watching, because you are a caregiver, how do you juggle that and still find time for your happy? How? How do you do it?
Yes. Well, through time, we got to a place where we know our normal routine. So it didn't happen overnight. So my father sleeps in and he stays up late. So I work a lot early in the morning until he gets up. But we found our rhythm and our routine. And then there's certain days I do have a caregiver come in and help when I'm slammed or when I need to leave the office for meetings and appointments. So you just find your rhythm. But it didn't happen overnight, and it took some time. It really took some time. But I also, what I do is I run away from home. So any caregivers out there, you have to carve out that time for you. And it needs to be like it's an appointment. don't let anything come between you and your time. So I run away from home. So I leave the house because my home is no longer, how can I say it, not my sanctuary like it was before because of the dynamics, right?
Mhm.
So I leave the home, I run away somewhere else and just an overnight um, time, but then I can come back and be refreshed and care with love and empathy.
Ooh,
Because
I
if
love
my
it.
mind is not right, then it's easy to say, oh my goodness, why is he doing this? Or why, even though I know why he's doing it, but it
Mhm.
allows me to be the best person I can be on that day.
I love that. And I love how you said you had to schedule, put time on your schedule, put you on your schedule,
Yes,
right? And
yes,
don't reschedule your time.
no. Stats show that the average caregiver, unfortunately, caregiving can take years off of our life. So we have to put us first, like on the airplane. When they do that, the promo, put your mask on you first. Same thing. We can't help our loved one if we're not okay.
So good. Carrie, we are wrapping up. Before we get into our game that you didn't know, I always ask my guests the question, if you could give three ingredients to glowing up, what would they be?
Three ingredients.
Mm-hmm. Three
Oh
key.
gosh. Three key ingredients. So, show up, always show up, always be present, and always be prepared.
Mm, good stuff. I like it. Show up, be present, and be prepared. Awesome. Now, let our guests know what services you provide. You can give your website, and we'll get into our game that you didn't know.
Okay, excellent. Well, my website is lawlenins.com. That's LAWLENINS.com. You can also contact me on Instagram. It's Live Well with Carrie. And Carrie is KERRI. So Live Well with Carrie on IG.
I love it. So, Carrie, let's talk about you. Bet you didn't know. So, what is the last song that you listened to?
Oh gosh, the last song that I listened to was No Judgment. Love is a Battlefield.
Okay.
Hilarious. Don't pull my
Come
card.
on here. Listen, I crack up at these answers. I'm not no judgment
Oh
here.
gosh.
That's
Yes, love is a
very
battlefield.
so. If you can eat any food every day, what would it be?
Oh gosh, Talenti gelato, ice cream. It's the
Mm,
vanilla it's amazing.
I see that in the grocery store. I have not tried it yet. I'm gonna have to
Oh,
look it up.
once you start, you will not stop. So I'm
Wow,
sorry.
I'm about to be a junkie with it. So, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh my goodness. My biggest pet peeve would be passive aggressiveness. Yeah,
Mm,
I'm someone that, keep it real. What you see is what you get. And if you're feeling some kind of way, just say it so we can work it out and move forward.
I know that's right. If you could travel anywhere that you haven't been, where would it be?
Oh gosh, the Maldives, was it Maldives
Yes,
Islands? Yes, that's where I'd love to go right now. Yes.
that's amazing. And our last question: what is the biggest